The man had just awakened his talents, yet he instilled such fear that it left everyone trembling. Even the highest-ranking generals of the army were left in awe because this man had awakened with the highest SS-level talent known to humanity. It is said that the chance of possessing such talent is a mere 1 in 10,000. Yet the man himself felt no surprise whatsoever. For only he knew that SS-level was merely a limitation of the crystal, not a boundary for him. His true talent level was a peak 3S, the highest among humanity. It turns out that in his previous life, Yanning had become a war god thanks to this miraculous ability. He wielded his immense strength to protect humanity. A century ago, a cataclysmic event unleashed by monstrous beings turned the world into a hellish nightmare. Fortunately, there were also individuals who awakened with powerful talents among humanity. They constantly transformed and battled, becoming the last line of defense for mankind. But ultimately, they were driven into a corner by countless variants. With his superior strength, Yanning became humanity's final hope. However, what no one expected was that a theoretical 4th-level variant emerged on the battlefield. It turns out that level 3 was not the upper limit for variants. There existed a far more powerful world beyond it. Even Yanning, hailed as the war god, could not withstand it. In the end, he could only endure and succumb beneath its might. In his dying moments, Yanning's heart was filled with regret. If only he had awakened sooner and had more time to grow stronger, perhaps he could have saved this world. His mother and sister would not have had to die because of it. Witnessing the fall of the war god of Huaxia, the commander understood that they had completely lost hope. Determined to activate the honor guard plan, he swore to accompany them to death with dignity. In the midst of countless honor guards, Lantan was instantly thrown into chaos. But when Yanning awakened once more, he found himself in a room. 2 guards, armed and cold, approached him. From their words, he learned that he had been infected by a virus and was barred from the talent assessment. The guards intended to confine him here until the assessment concluded. But alas, he had awoken. It turned out he had returned to the day of the talent assessment 3 years ago. In his previous life, he had been prevented from testing due to someone's covert manipulation. But now, having come back to life, he would not let this happen again. In an instant, he seized the guard's weapon, twisting it back in a heartbeat. Next, he delivered a powerful elbow strike to one of them. With lightning speed, he aimed the gun at them. After a few gunshots rang out, the 2 guards collapsed to the ground. In his previous life, Yanning had to survive by scavenging after missing the assessment, enduring 3 long years of hardship. It was only when the army discovered his extraordinary talent that they realized his potential. However, by that time, the Huahua battle zone had long since crumbled, leaving no time or resources for him to truly develop. Despite his rapid rise to become a 3rd-tier powerhouse in just 2.5 years, he still lacked the strength to compete. Ultimately, he fell beneath the hands of a 4th-tier mutant. But now, a chance had emerged to change everything. All he needed to do was pass the test and become the strongest. If he could do that, his mother and sister would not have to perish. He was determined to end this apocalypse with his own hands. As he contemplated this, a notification echoed in his ears. The Apocalypse training system had been linked. Please touch the testing crystal within 30 minutes to activate the system. If he failed to interact with the system, it would vanish in 30 minutes. After activation, all skills would be enhanced 100-fold, upgrading into combat abilities. Danin felt a surge of anxiety as he swallowed hard. Could this be his savior? If so, he needed to hurry and initiate the test to uncover the mastermind behind it all. Meanwhile, the other guards, alerted by the alarm, rushed to the scene. They regarded Danin as an infected individual attempting to escape, raising their weapons and ordering him to surrender immediately. Observing this situation, Danin quickly devised a plan. Among them, only the captain had awakened to DJ tier powers. The others were ordinary soldiers. The optimal solution was to subdue the captain and break free. They treated Yin Nin as an infected fugitive, raising their weapons and demanding his immediate surrender. Witnessing this, Yin Nin swiftly formulated a strategy. Only the captain among them was a DJ tier awakener, while the rest were mere mortals. The best course of action was to incapacitate the captain and make an escape. After a brief moment of contemplation, Yin sprang into action. Before the captain could react, he disarmed him, knocking the weapon from his grasp. In the blink of an eye, he darted behind the captain, the weapon pressing against the man's head, threatening everyone to remain still. "Lead me to the testing area. You have 3 seconds to think." Seeing the unfolding situation, everyone felt a tinge of madness in Yin demeanor. The captain couldn't comprehend his actions. Why would an ordinary person want to participate in the test, Stroth? In response to this absurdity, Yin merely coldly chambered around, instilling fear in the captain, who dared not utter another word. The captain could only comply with Nin's demands, though he did not forget to threaten, "You better bet on your awakening, or you will surely meet your end." At that moment, in the plaza, everyone was preparing for the test. Just then, a notification echoed through the air. An infected individual has taken hostages in the testing zone. Shortly after, Nin arrived at the scene, gripping a soldier. Lu Feng, the representative of the military committee, immediately demanded that Nin lower his weapon and refrain from any foolish actions. After speaking, many guards immediately surrounded him. Nin loudly said to everyone, "I am not sick, nor do I wish to disrupt the awakening process. I am here to participate in the examination." However, Lu Feng did not believe Nin's words and loudly ordered, "Arrest him." As the guards prepared to charge, Nin proactively put down his weapons, raised his hands, and began reciting the safety zone regulations. According to the rules, those who are awakened are entitled to special privileges. Even if one commits a capital offense by violating military orders, sufficient contributions can still earn an exemption. But no sooner had he finished speaking than he was punched in the face. "What right do you have to become an awakened hub? How ridiculous!" The soldiers mocked as they rushed forward and subdued Nin to the ground. Lu Feng loudly ordered, "Take him and deal with him on the spot." Just as the blade was about to fall on Nin, a sleek silver fighter jet appeared overhead. Instantly, a figure leaped out from inside. It was the supreme commander of the Tianfeng military zone, Diet Hai, a level 3 awakened. As soon as he touched the ground, a terrifying aura of authority spread out. The overwhelming pressure left the soldiers deeply shaken. The deep voice of Tio Hai rang out, "Currently, our military zone is lacking high-level awakened individuals. If he is willing to bet his life, let's see if he truly excels. If he fails, we will deal with him immediately." With a confident smile, Vungon stepped forward amid the mocking laughter around him. He scoffed, "Even if he is tested, what good will it do? Ordinary people dreaming of becoming awakened is truly ludicrous. Sadly, there are still those at the bottom of society who delude themselves into thinking they have talent. It's infuriating." However, Ming was completely unfazed by this, as he was about to slap them with reality. In his previous life, he had been manipulated by others and missed the opportunity for examination, leading to a misguided step. This time, he was determined to take control of his own fate. When Nin placed his hand on the crystal, it immediately emitted a brilliant light. A powerful aura erupted from within, so intense that even Tio Hai and Lu Feng were shaken. Everyone around was caught in the moment, their eyes wide with surprise. The majestic aura in the space surged like a storm, with an endless stream of energy continuously flowing into Nin's body. His awakened power level skyrocketed at a dizzying pace, advancing from level D to C, then to B, and finally to A, with no signs of stopping. Witnessing this scene, Lu Feng couldn't help but be terrified. He had thought Nin was just an ordinary person with almost no talent. Such a phenomenon could occur once in millions. Meanwhile, Tio Hai anxiously watched Nin, captivated by the unfolding events. The momentum was surging, and a bold thought flickered in his mind. Until now, there had been no final results from the tests. Could it be that he possessed a talent far superior to Gan? This thought was quickly confirmed as the aura of Ye Ming erupted once again, a powerful column of light shooting straight into the heavens. The terrifying energy left everyone speechless. Yet, Tio Hai swiftly recognized a chilling truth. The crystal not announcing the end of the test meant that Ye Ning's evaluation was still ongoing. It turned out he was an awakened being with strength talent. However, he was the seed of a third-tier awakened. At this critical juncture, he could not allow Ye Ning to be disturbed. Without hesitation, he commanded all armored forces to be on high alert against possible attacks from variants, deploying combat aircraft to patrol the area. All routes to the square were restricted to military traffic only. No sooner had his military orders been issued than Ye Ning's aura reached its peak. Finally, like a whirlwind, it erupted completely in the square, concluding the assessment. The crowd was filled with astonishment. Even Tiao Hai stood frozen, for the final assessment level of Ye Ning was Blood Essence at SS rank. If S rank was the reserve for third-tier awakens, then SS rank would surely ascend to that level. With this thought, Tiao Hai couldn't help but burst into laughter. How marvelous! Truly spectacular! I never imagined that at the pinnacle of Guijing, a talent like this would emerge. As everyone witnessed Ye Ning receiving praise from Tiao Hai, envy simmered within them. Yet they couldn't resist slyly mocking him for his rapid change in attitude. Just moments ago, he had claimed Ye Ning was daydreaming, and now he was singing his praises. Meanwhile, Ye Ning felt an overwhelming astonishment within. His talent had clearly reached the level of 3S, yet he was surprised to find that the crystal's capacity for evaluation was limited to SS. Nevertheless, he did not dwell on this too much, for the most pressing matter was the mission from the training system. At that moment, his system had successfully activated, capable of unconditionally upgrading any skill to 3S, along with 2 supplementary effects enhancing reserve energy by 10,000 and unlocking comprehensive attribute limits. Every 48 hours, he could use a skill once without incurring any costs. Witnessing this scene, Ye Ning was struck with disbelief. It must be noted that in his previous life, even with the full might of a nation, he could only muster 2 S-rank skills and 1 A-rank skill. Yet now, the training system could effortlessly elevate skills to 3S. Truly unbelievable. At this time, Tiao Hai approached Yan Ning, inquiring what reward he wished to receive. Then he led Yan Ning to his office, informing him that he had nearly missed the assessment opportunity due to external interference, and that relevant departments had been completely secured. I will undoubtedly investigate thoroughly and provide you with a clear explanation. I will nominate you as the top candidate to report to the higher-ups. Once approved, you will have a dedicated Level 3 mentor, and you will also receive priority in supplies and equipment. Now tell me about your abilities, and I will help you plan. After hearing this, Ye Ning paused to think. He decided not to reveal his full physical system capabilities to others. Instead, he chose to only disclose his initial ability. Therefore, he informed Tiao Hai that his power belonged to the mental system, specifically mind control. Tiao Hai stroked his chin, falling into deep contemplation. Mental abilities are quite rare. It seems we might need opinions from experts in the capital, Tiao Hai noted. He then asked Ye Ning what reward he desired. Ye Ning responded that if possible, he would like a skill book pertaining to swordsmanship. Tiao Hai immediately ordered someone to bring the highest level skill book available. After receiving the skill book, Ye Ning mentioned that if there were no other matters, he would like to go home for a visit. Immediately, Tiao Hai arranged for a few people to protect him around the clock, with instructions to report any incidents directly to the higher-ups. Moreover, it was noted that Ye Ning had nearly lost his qualification for the examination. Within 24 hours, I need to see a report. No matter who it involves, arrest them first, Tiao Hai commanded. A while later, Ye Ning was escorted back to the safe zone. As his neighbors saw him sitting in an armored vehicle returning home, they were all very surprised, especially seeing several awakened individuals guarding him. It's definitely not simple, Ye Ning thought as he spotted a small figure ahead. That was his younger sister, Yin Tian. Memories from his past life flooded back, filling him with remorse. I'm sorry, Tian. In my previous life, I couldn't protect you. In this life, I will make sure you won't suffer any harm, he declared, embracing his sister tightly. Aren't you supposed to be at the training camp? Why are you back? Her gentle voice asked. Hearing this, tears couldn't help but fall from Ye Ning's eyes. After composing himself, Ye Ning and his sister headed home. Shortly after, their mother asked about the progress of his awakening test, with many curious neighbors listening in. Ye Ning cheerfully updated his mother, sharing the news of his achievements. The test is over, and I am now an awakened, Ye Ning announced. Hearing this good news, his mother became extremely excited. "That's wonderful." His sister also joyfully waved her hands and cheered. "You truly deserve it, my brother. You are my pride." Late at night, back in his room, Yin activated his system and began to upgrade the level C skill he had received. Instantly, the Sword Chi Stab skill was upgraded to the 3S level skill, Sword Storm. The Sword Storm skill consumes 4,500 energy points to summon a powerful surge of sword energy, which, for a brief period, inflicts devastating damage to the targeted area. This skill comes with characteristics like hyperspeed, armor penetration, destructive force, and slashing capabilities. The destructive power of this skill is enhanced 10,000 times compared to its current level, requiring cautious use. Witnessing this, Yin was deeply shaken and could hardly believe it. Even in his previous life, where he had seen many significant events, upgrading a level C skill to 3S was still a marvel. He had never witnessed such absurdity before. But he quickly noted that utilizing this skill required a staggering 4,500 points of spiritual energy. Normally, at level 0, the energy within one's body was merely 1,500 points at level 1. It was 2,000 points at level 2, 3,000 points, and at level 3, 4,000 points. In other words, disregarding any additional equipment, to use the Stormblade, one would theoretically need to reach at least intermediate level 3. Fortunately, he had a unique ability that allowed him to use the skill once within 48 hours. Otherwise, even if he expended all his current spiritual energy, he wouldn't be able to activate it. The frustrating part was that the system didn't permit any disclosure about his abilities. Thus, Yin couldn't explain to anyone else the origins of his skills and powers. In other words, before leveling up to level 2, he had to avoid using the Stormblade in front of others. Moreover, this was a crucial time in the plan to report the plant varieties to Tiohai. He should really avoid causing any trouble. However, the thought of wielding such a high-level skill, one he had never possessed in his previous life, ignited a burning excitement within Yin. Eager to test his abilities, a thought suddenly struck him, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smirk. He recalled that the military district had a training assessment, a product of the Army's research and development designed for real combat training. Unlike the natural version, this assessment allowed for escape in dangerous situations, maximizing safety to the utmost. Thus, Yin decided to head to the assessment area to put his 3S skills to the test. Shortly after, he arrived at the testing ground in the Tianfeng region. He requested the staff to grant him access to a low-level trial. Recognizing Yin's identity, the staff recalled that Tiohai had issued instructions to allow him entry. Yet, seeing him wanting to go alone, they couldn't help but feel a bit concerned and asked if he needed anyone to accompany him. Given his current power, going in alone was quite perilous, but before he could finish, Yin pressed the activation button in his hand. "I'm just going in for a quick test. I'll be right back," he declared, and in the blink of an eye, his figure vanished. Yin successfully entered the assessment. The scenery within was reminiscent of a post-apocalyptic world. Although armed only with a dagger, Yin felt satisfied the weaker the weapon, the better for testing his skills. Meanwhile, a mutated monster lurked, silently tracking his movements. Suddenly, it lunged at him with a surprise attack. Yin immediately detected its movement, swiftly leaping back to evade its strike, then raised the dagger in his hand and dealt a swift blow, ending the creature and claiming some experience points. It was time for his hunting spree. With his superior strength, every mutated creature he encountered was swiftly dispatched. Despite his physical prowess not being exceptionally strong at the moment, his combat experience from his past life made handling these zombies a relatively easy task. However, these minor monsters weren't worth using his skills on. It seemed he needed to seek out the boss area. After passing through the shopping district, Yin arrived at a square ahead where a huge horde of zombies was gathering. The difficulty of the trial was increasing, but Yin didn't want to waste too much time on them. He decided to find the boss as quickly as possible. Yin moved swiftly, like the wind, and quickly broke free from the encirclement of the zombie horde. However, the zombies relentlessly pursued him, their numbers rapidly increasing. Unfortunately, No matter how many regular zombies he killed, it did not increase his energy points. Therefore, Yinning decided not to linger with the zombies for too long and quickly moved away, heading towards the boss area. Soon, he reached the boss zone, and immediately a sense of danger overwhelmed him. A mutant appeared beside him with incredible speed. The situation escalated quickly as Yinnin leaped away from a critical strike. The boss of this level was a high-tier, one-star troublemaker. Seeing this, Yinnin felt the gravity of the challenge. Normally, dealing with a top-tier one-star mutant required at least 3 awakened of the same level would be needed. If Yinnin wasn't here to test his skills, even with his high talent, he wouldn't be able to confront a top-tier one-star mutant head-on. Moreover, the area was swarmed with regular zombies surrounding the formidable enemy. Even a one-star elite team would struggle to escape such a scenario. Thus, Yinnin prepared for the worst-case scenario. If his skills were not as strong as he imagined, the only option, no matter how disastrous, would be to retreat from the trial. He leaped forward, dagger in hand, quickly gathering strength to unleash the sword storm. Instantly, a sharp surge of sword energy, as if from beyond the heavens, tore through the space around him. The sharp blade of sword energy swiftly sliced through everything in its path. Yinnin's eyes widened in astonishment at the scene before him. Under the impact of this stunning strike, the entire area was devastated, leaving nothing intact. Not a single monster could escape the catastrophe. Yinnin exclaimed in awe, unable to imagine the full extent of the sword storm's power had he not come to test it. This strength was so formidable that even a 2-star top-tier mutant could be annihilated in a single move. Now, having just reached level 1 and successfully killing a 1-star top-tier mutant, Yinnin had gained 5,000 experience points. After deductions for using an artificial trial environment, which subtracted 50 points, he received the Windswift gear. This equipment increased agility by 1 point and improved both the speed of his actions and the stability of his shooting by 15. The spectacle left Yinnin somewhat stunned. Because the experience points in an artificial trial environment are derived from the spiritual energy provided by the battlefield, the drop rate cannot compare to a normal version. In his previous life, Yinnin had never heard of anyone receiving equipment from a test environment. However, now, the unexpected drop of equipment during the trial excited him immensely. In this apocalyptic era, even ordinary second-tier awakened individuals may not have enough basic gear. Now that you possess even one item, it's a decent start. After that, you left the trial dungeon, stepping out into the unknown. Yanning returned the trial card to the staff. Seeing Yanning emerge so quickly, they were a bit surprised, speculating that he must have been frightened by the horde of zombies and fled. Just as Yanning departed, a shout echoed in their ears. Who allowed several teams into the trial dungeon? Wasn't it already stated that no teams should enter the solo dungeon? Allowing too many people in makes maintenance nearly impossible. How many times do I need to repeat this before you remember? The maintenance staff fumed, chastising the man, while he stood there, bewildered and innocent. He claimed that no teams had entered the solo dungeon. Upon hearing this, the maintenance staff found it perplexing. If no teams had entered, then how did the boss in the solo dungeon get defeated? The only piece of equipment had already dropped, which meant a second-tier awakened individual could not possibly have passed through the trial alone. Upon realizing this, the man was struck by a horrifying thought. Just now, only Yanning had entered the dungeon alone. Could it be that he defeated the boss all by himself? Meanwhile, Yanning had returned to the safe zone, quickly reflecting on the current situation. Although he could easily handle any top-tier shapeshifters, the situation was still grim. In 10 days, the area around Yuanshen City would erupt into a zombie riot, launching an attack on their safe zone. Thus, the danger to his sister and mother remained unresolved. His own strength needed to be enhanced rapidly. Meanwhile, at the Central Command headquarters, news of Yanning's SS talent had reached them, recognizing him as a pure seed. Recently, the casualty rates among third-tier awakened individuals had been relatively high, necessitating the infusion of such talents. Some even proposed directly assigning Yanning to the capital military district, placing him under the commander's personal tutelage. The goal was to break the barrier from Tier 3 to Tier 4. After all, to this day, none of the high-tier awakened individuals, whether the 4 leaders or the dozen top-tier, third-tier military personnel, even their commander, had managed to ascend to Tier 4, as they were not nurtured from the start with the best resources. Therefore, they decided to start from the source, closely tied to resources to train Yan Ning, recognizing him as an SS talent and placing him on the list. The plan was immediately set into motion, mobilizing the capital military district as priority number 1. However, this decision faced opposition. No one could comprehend why anyone was more deserving than this SS genius. In response, the man voiced his objections. He was the one awakened with a spiritual system. Over the past 70 years, no awakened individual from this system had ever reached the 3rd realm. Those with a spiritual awakening typically possess weaker physiques and are often only supportive. Without other awakened individuals protecting them in battle, they would be nothing but a burden. In the solitary advancement task, if one approaches level 2 relying solely on luck, what happens when they reach the pinnacle of level 2, nearly touching level 3? As everyone knows, the current success rate stands at 0. A heavy silence envelops the room, and after a long pause, the man lets out a deep sigh of regret. That's the decision, then. While Yinnin may hold some importance, we must reconsider. Precious resources cannot be squandered. The next day, Tiohai received feedback from headquarters, informing him that the candidate for the Flame Plan, Yinnin, had been eliminated and his significance had diminished. The reason his mental system could not advance to level 3. The potential evaluation only equated to level S, or perhaps even lower, rendering further training meaningless. After concluding the assessment, Tiohai coldly tossed the tablet aside, confirming that Yinning lacked potential. In that case, let's revoke Yinning's initial benefits and retract his protection team. There's no need to continue investigating the barriers surrounding Yinning's examination, as the suspect's lead had been severed by suicide. Tiohai, visibly displeased, recalled that he had previously agreed to the investigation due to the potential he saw in him. Now that the potential has vanished, there's nothing left to investigate. Not long after, Yinnin received a notification stating that his potential evaluation was only level 2, leading to the cancellation of his safety zone benefits. He would not be participating in the seed plan either. Upon receiving this news, Yinnin felt a wave of disbelief wash over him. How could his potential evaluation be merely level 2? His innate talent soared to 3S. Even if he was only assessed as level SS, it should have been enough to prove his potential. However, Yinning quickly grasped the reason. At this moment, those awakened with mental systems were still often regarded as worthless, and those unable to surpass level 4 were seen as lacking. This was all due to the deficiencies in the will attribute, which needed recovery capabilities. The theory surrounding mental systems was still unknown to anyone. Consequently, the higher-ups failed to recognize his value. Yinnin sighed in defeat. Did he really have to travel to the capital and proclaim himself as a 3S prodigy? And that awakening his mental powers was the key to advancing to level 4. But he quickly abandoned this thought, realizing that mere words would garner no belief. What he needed to do now was find a way to swiftly regain his strength and reach level 3. At that point, all issues would resolve themselves. In this endeavor, it wasn't just about premature awakening, but also about establishing a training system. Compared to his previous life, this could be seen as a favorable start. Thus, Yinnin immediately resolved to hunt a shapeshifter. The scene shifts to Yinning arriving in a wild forest. The group, noticing his solitude, kindly inquired if he wanted to join their team in hunting a level 1 shapeshifter. If they succeeded, they would share some credits with him and ensure his safety. However, Yinning scornfully declined their offer, his expression one of disdain. No need. The experience of a first-level shapeshifter is already limited, and with 0 experience points, there's not much to share. Yan Ning's refusal took a few by surprise initially. Seeing him alone, they intended to offer help, unaware that he didn't recognize their goodwill. The more they spoke, the angrier they became as they advanced towards Yan Ning. "We treated you kindly, yet you respond with such arrogance. Isn't that a bit presumptuous?" Seeing this, a glint of cold fury flickered in Yan Ning's eyes as he coldly retorted, "Step aside." His icy gaze made the man retreat step by step. He felt as if a ferocious beast was locking onto him. Looking into Yan Ning's eyes, a hint of fear welled up in his heart. Those eyes belonged only to those who had danced on the edge of life and death. Moments later, Yan Ning arrived at his destination, the withered forest. This was one of the most perilous areas outside the safe zone of Tianfeng. If he remembered correctly, deep within the forest were two first-level shapeshifters, one of which was a top-tier first-level shapeshifter. To advance to level 1, a awakened individual must eliminate 3 first-level shapeshifters. Yan Ning had already taken down a top-tier first-level shapeshifter in the quest, and although his experience was halved, it equated to defeating a normal first-level shapeshifter. Therefore, if he could eliminate the 2 lurking in the withered forest, he could level up. However, he needed to refrain from using the bullet storm technique to eliminate them all at once, as he needed experience and spiritual energy. At the same time, he had to enhance his physical capabilities. He needed to make his superiors aware that awakened individuals of the spiritual system could possess strength beyond mere physicality. Not just him, but all third-level awakened ones must find ways to awaken their spirits. If not, when a 4th-level shapeshifter emerged, it would be too late. Yan Ning had to strategize to make his superiors recognize the significance of the spiritual system. Just then, 2 massive vines lunged toward him. One was a top-tier first-level shapeshifter, and the other a tightly coiled first-level shapeshifter. Seeing this, Yan Ning's eyes lit up. Clearly, there were 2 roaming. However, all he could see was the coiling one, completely unaware of the lurking shapeshifter, which made him incredibly uneasy. There was no time for contemplation. The attack from the shapeshifter was upon him. Yan Ning swiftly dodged the attacking vines while searching for traces of the coiling shapeshifter. Yet, when he turned around, the coiling one had suddenly appeared right above him. A massive vine came crashing down with ferocity. Fortunately, Yan Ning reacted in time to evade, only to discover that this seemingly heavy creature could leap. Meanwhile, the second shapeshifter was still nowhere to be seen. Did it intend to take advantage of this moment to strike? Just as he was pondering this, the shapeshifter's attack came barreling toward him again. With no time to dodge, Yan Ning could only brace himself to counter. At the very moment of fierce combat, the shapeshifter let out a blood-curdling scream. Beneath it, an eye like that of a snail stared intently at him. Right away, Dipnin sensed the presence of his foe. A flash of red ignited in the eyes of the ensnarer, and a swift strike landed on Dipnin's arm. He had always thought the other variant was lurking somewhere, but the answer lay closer than he imagined. It turned out that the ensnarer was always hiding on the very belt he wore. Shrieks of the ensnarer served to amplify the strength of the shapeshifter, yet it seemed this boss could not sustain its power for much longer. During this time, the shapeshifter retreated a step, which indicated that their next attack would mirror the last. If he wasn't mistaken, it would soon leap to strike again. Just as Yan Ning anticipated, the creature's assault resembled the previous one. With that prediction in mind, Yan Ning immediately prepared to counterattack, his form flashing as he appeared before the monster, ready to leap. Dagger in his hand thrust fiercely into the ensnarer's body. Yan Ning severed it from the monster, holding the writhing entity in his grasp. Now detached from the creature, it was astonishingly weak. Without hesitation, Yan Ning unleashed a surge of strength, crushing it and robbing the shapeshifter of the buff it had received from the tormentor. The ensnarer's momentum weakened significantly, yet it still lashed out with its vines towards Yan Ning in a frantic charge. Yan Ning swiftly drew another dagger from his belt, and with a flick of his wrist, the blade sliced through the attacking vines like lightning. He hadn't expected that the loss of the tormentor's buff would leave the creature so vulnerable. Even stripped of its peak-level power, facing Yan Ning's relentless advance made the ensnarer feel a twinge of fear. With a deafening roar, it unleashed its vines in a frenzied onslaught. Yet Yan Ning remained calm, inhaling deeply. Rising in a combat stance, the winds howled as countless blades of light tore through the air. All the vines clinging to the ensnarer were severed, leaving it to tremble in despair. Yinning's gaze lowered slightly, coldly uttering a farewell. With that, his hand plunged fiercely into its skull. A violent wave of sword energy erupted, tearing it apart in a devastating explosion that obliterated the final level 1 shapeshifter. He achieved 0 experience points for defeating a peak-level shapeshifter. He received 0 experience points and obtained 0 shells from the Tormentor. Additionally, he acquired a set of dry wooden armor and found a peculiar item, a lemon fruit, an unusual moist fruit. Yinning assessed the properties of the armor. Despite having negative effects, it was still considered a decent item for regular combat. However, the real treasure was the lemon fruit, which when consumed would permanently increase one's constitution by 1 point and provide a 20-point life regeneration boost. Without hesitation, Yin-Nin decided to use it. For many awakened beings, leveling up granted only 4 attribute points, but having killed 2 bosses to gain just 1 point felt like an incredible bounty. 2.5 hours later, Yin-Nin arrived at the safe zone, where he could trade materials harvested from the shapeshifters. Bring out all the materials we just hunted. Although transactions can be made directly through the system, at this stage, no resource can be wasted. Money must be spent on essential items, so offline trading will be more suitable. After the staff finished their tally, they calculated a total value of 697 credit points. Seeing this was his first time, he decided to buy back with 700 points. In this apocalyptic world, 700 credit points can be exchanged for over 200 kilograms of meat or hire 7 or 8 mercenaries for protection. Thus, it was quite a high price. Immediately, Yen-Nin agreed. At this moment, the shop owner approached Yen-Nin, informing him that they also sold equipment and supplies here. Weapons and special requests could also be customized. Yen-Nin inquired if there were any skill books available, and upon hearing this, the owner seemed somewhat embarrassed. He mentioned that there were some, but they were only basic building skills at a rather low level, specifically earth tire skills. Not just their trading association, the entire safe zone Tianfeng was the same. One of the staff brought out 3 skill books for Yen-Nin to review. Earth tier skill, Earth/consumes a portion of stamina and spirit, then unleashes a stored attack forward, causing 1 to 2 times damage based on strength attributes. The Earth tier skill, Arrow Strike, consumes stamina to increase attack speed, and when attacking for the first time, it inflicts 1 to 2 times damage based on agility attributes. The Earth Tire skill, Rapid Slash, consumes a significant amount of stamina and spirit, delivering 3 quick slashes, with each slash inflicting 0.6 times damage based on strength attributes and having a chance to cause bleeding effects. After examining these, Yen-Nin felt that none of the 3 books stood out. Although the power of skills improved by the system was not a concern, the effects after enhancement still heavily relied on the original. Therefore, one must choose carefully. Just like the Stormblade, although it possesses incredible power, its activation time is brief and its large area coverage makes it less flexible. If he encounters high-speed mutated creatures in the future, once they evade the attack, he would be vulnerable during the cooldown. After pondering, Yen-Nin ultimately chose the Blade Rush skill. He was eager to see how the attack speed enhancement would evolve. Once he dodged during the cooldown, he would face incoming attacks. After some contemplation, Dipnin finally decided on the Draw Sword Slash skill. He was curious to discover what form the attack speed enhancement would take. The shop owner was quite surprised to see Dipnin genuinely wanting to purchase this seemingly worthless skill. Was this the whim of a rich man? But that was not his concern. With a cheerful grin, he instructed his staff to wrap up the skill for the esteemed customer. Thus, Dipnin had just acquired the skill with his 700 credits. Having spent 600 points, Dipnin looked at his remaining balance of 100 points and resolved to buy some tasty snacks for his sister. Shortly after, he returned home with a variety of snacks. In the bedroom, ensuring survival had become a challenging affair. Therefore, snacks had become a luxury item. His sister's face lit up with excitement as she exclaimed, "Brother, I heard only the officials' families have snacks, and no one in our neighborhood has seen them." Dipnin affectionately tousled his sister's hair and reassured her, "Go ahead and eat. In the future, There will be plenty more like this for you, Tioan. After ensuring his sister was soundly asleep, Dip Nin took out the skill book he had purchased that day and used the system to study and upgrade. He successfully learned the Earth-level skill, Draw and Slash, which was currently at level 2. The skill was upgraded to the 3S level, Heavenly Radiant Slash. The skill effect consumes 4,000 energy points to perform an instant slash. This attack gains 600 power and speed for 1 second. The strike is accompanied by destructive sword energy, causing a crushing effect on the first target hit, leading to uneven bodily destruction. There is a certain probability of triggering a critical hit effect. Dip Nin was very satisfied, realizing he had made the right choice. With the 600 speed points, he could compensate for the skill's cooldown time. Next, he thought, preparing for what lay ahead. He needed to find a place to test his new skill. Without hesitation, he donned a defensive suit. 2.5 hours later, Dip Nin arrived at the outskirts of Nguyen Thien Phuong City. This area had been overtaken by mutated plants spreading toxic gases. In his previous life, he had stumbled upon this place by chance. This place harbored a level 2 mutant with near maximal speed and agility. Additionally, it possessed a valuable piece of blue-grade equipment. Just at that moment, a zombie appeared from behind him. Just as Dip Nin was about to move, he realized he was entangled by poisonous threads. The zombie lunged at him, its mouth wide open, revealing sharp teeth aimed directly at him. Reacting swiftly, he drew a knife from his belt, slashing twice with lightning speed, instantly eliminating the zombie. However, a sense of unease crept in. Fortunately, it was just a zombie this time. If it had been a climber, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Fighting such a creature in this toxic swamp would be like a hellish nightmare. He knew he had to quickly change locations. Without hesitation, he started moving towards the place in his memory where the climber had been. Dip Nin recalled that in his previous life, he had fought this creature when it had already reached level 2, and it was equipped with the blue-grade gear. The battle had left him severely injured and barely standing. With his current physical condition, even a slight delay could result in a similar fate. He knew he had to act swiftly and precisely to avoid the same outcome. Dip Nin knew that if he wasn't careful, the climber could tear him apart in an instant. He quickly approached the area where the climber was located. Spotting an iron bar nearby, he decided to use it to set up a trap. However, just as he finished, a lower-level monster suddenly appeared from behind. It was an elite ambusher. In a fleeting moment, he charged straight towards Dip Nin. He needed to deal with it swiftly, for the presence of the climber would soon complicate everything. The creature that had just attacked had already fallen into the trap laid by Dip Nin. But just then, a sound echoed behind him. The supreme mutated second-tier climber had made its appearance. Witnessing this scene, Dip Nin felt an unsettling dread. The very thing he feared the most had finally transpired. The situation had devolved into a dreadful 1-versus-2 confrontation. He saw the climber vanish in an instant, only to reappear directly in front of him. He could feel the threat looming ominously. This foe was significantly faster than in his previous life. However, thanks to the hazy principles under the dim light, the close distance to the climber made its next attack easier to evade. Yet the attack points of this elite creature were exceedingly difficult to predict. Yet, Dip Nin had no time to ponder further. The climber's attack came swiftly. He could only dodge reflexively, but the elite creature's strike could not be avoided, crashing forcefully into him. Moreover, the trap he had just set had plunged deep into his flesh. This exacerbated his wounds. Dip Nin quickly racked his brain for a way out of this predicament. Although he had come here to test his skills, the current situation was perilous. Utilizing the Windstorm build would surely be much safer, but the issue now was the need to use the Windstorm build to clear the chaos. It seemed there were no conditions to do so. The climber moved too swiftly. The Windstorm build was utterly incapable of hitting its target. Furthermore, given his current physical condition, it was impossible to perfectly evade both mutated creatures. Thus, the only skill he could resort to was still the Weatherlight. But the Weatherlight was a single-target attack, putting Dip Nin in a dilemma. In that moment, he recalled the attack of the Weatherlight, which was accompanied by sword energy. Although he couldn't gauge the extent of the sword energy, he knew he had to be cautious. If he calculated the shortest length he understood, that is, the length of an arm combined with the body's length and the minimum sword energy, it became clear that, despite being a single-target skill, the Weatherlight could indeed strike two monsters simultaneously. With a swift motion, Deep Nin conjured the sword energy in his hand and unleashed a slicing attack. In an instant, the Weatherlight's sword energy shot forth like an arrow piercing through the wind. The spiraling green light whirled around, mercilessly tearing the two mutated creatures into countless fragments. As the dust settled, a large wound left by the sword became visible in the space. Deep Nin immediately recognized that this was the effect of the activated attack skill. It was not merely as described, it could cause uneven crushing effects on the first target hit, and the sword energy also carried a destructive effect. The sheer power was truly terrifying. However, he quickly noticed something amiss regarding the attack's effect. It seems that the activation isn't always guaranteed. This skill still requires further research. As the battle concludes, the rewards have been confirmed. Deep Nin received an enormous amount of experience from defeating the mid-level second-tier mutant, along with additional experience for taking down the high-level first-tier mutant. He also obtained white-grade mutation materials from the creeping bovine, as well as green-grade materials. Swift mind and excellent gear, Foxclaw. Observing this scene, Deep Nin felt a sense of satisfaction. Though the previous risk was considerable, the rewards were undeniably worthwhile. Meanwhile, at the alert station in the Heavenly Peak area, they detected a powerful surge of energy alarms blared, and everyone was on high alert. Who could it be? A third-tier awakener had struck in the outskirts. However, upon reviewing the roster of those venturing out today, their spirits lifted. There were no third-tier awakeners from the Heavenly Peak military district outside today. Could it be a leader from another military district paying a visit, or perhaps a special operation from abroad? 20 minutes later, the alert station dispatched personnel to the scene for investigation. It was the first time they encountered such traces of battle, utterly unrecognizable. None of the recent third-tier leaders from nearby military districts could have executed such techniques. The testing device in their hands emitted a constant beeping sound. According to the residual energy analysis, this individual had executed techniques with a minimum energy level reaching 4,000. Moreover, even after releasing 40,000 energy, they remained unaffected and capable of action. This had to be an ultimate third-tier figure. With this thought, their anxiety deepened. The situation had escalated beyond their department's authority. It was an emergency they had to report immediately to the commander-in-chief.